Hello students, we will start with the chapter that is energy flow in an ecosystem. Now, we know that in an ecosystem, there is an interaction between the biotic and the abiotic factors. The abiotic factor include the non-living factors such as soil, water, etc. And the biotic factor include all the living organisms. Both these abiotic and biotic ecosystems are connected through various biogeochemical cycles. We will be studying about the various biogeochemical cycles. Let us first study the interaction between the ecosystem. Now, we know that in any ecosystem, we have various type of organism and their mode of nutrition. So, the organisms are classified into producers, consumers, saprotrophs, and decomposers. But here we will classify them in more detail. That is, producers are the plants, those are autotrophs, which produce the food. Then we have the primary consumers. Primary consumers are directly dependent on the autotrophs. For example, grasshopper, squirrel, elephant, deer, etc. Then we have the secondary consumers. The secondary consumers eat the herbivores, and herbivores are their food. For example, frog, owl, fox, etc. Then we have the apex or the top consumers. They use herbivores and carnivores as their food. No animals feed on top consumers. For example, tiger, lion, etc. And then last we have the omnivores, which feed on both, that is the herbivores and carnivores. Example, humans, bear, etc. Now, in an ecosystem, there are food chain. So, a food chain is a definite sequence of interaction which are continuously going on between the producers, consumers, and saprotrophs. And this is called as the food chain. They form a food chain and as they are directly dependent on each other. For example, the grasshopper feeds on the grass, the frog feeds on the grasshopper, the snake, which is a secondary consumer, feeds on the frog, and the hawk feeds on the snake. And when the hawk dies, the decomposers decompose the hawk's body. So there is an interaction which is going on in a food chain. You must have seen that this interaction is very important. So when there is a chain which is formed, that is called as a food chain. So the interaction which happens in a particular chain between the producers, consumers, and saprotrophs. This is called as a food chain. Next is the food web. Now many food chains, when they come together, they form a food web. So a food web is an intricate network of multiple food chains. That means one particular organism can be food for many organisms. So when many food chains combine, it forms a food web. Now here in the picture you can see that many organisms feed on each other. If you will see frog, many organisms are feeding on frog. So it becomes a food web. Next is the trophic level and energy pyramid. Now each level in the food chain is called a trophic level. A trophic level is the set at which the organism obtains its food in the food chain. The amount of matter and energy gradually decreases from producer at the lowest level to the top consumer at the highest level, because the energy is being utilized. So that is why the energy keeps on decreasing. But you will see one thing, that the energy is never lost. It is always gained in the environment only. Now you will see that when energy is being transferred from one level to the other level, in the tropic level, the amount of energy decreases from producer to the highest level. The initial quantity of energy goes on decreasing at every level of energy exchange. So first, if it was 10,000 calorie, in the next level 1000 calories will be there. In the next level 100 calories will be there, and in the topmost level only 10 calories will be transferred. This pattern of energy exchange in an ecosystem is called as the pyramid of energy. The lowest level has the highest amount of energy, and that energy keeps on decreasing and it forms a pyramid. So that is called as an energy pyramid. It is also said that the energy flow through an ecosystem in one way. The sun is the most important source of energy in an ecosystem. Green plants of the ecosystem store some amount of solar energy in form of food. Before reaching the decomposers, this energy is passed on in the tropic level, and the decomposers dissipate some amount of energy in the form of heat. No part of energy ever returns to the sun, and hence it is called that energy flow is always in one way, because it is always in one way. It is never going back to the sun. Now here is an example of pyramid of energy of water ecosystem. The lowest are the phytoplanktons. Now all the plants are called as phytoplanktons. The aquatic plants are called as the phytoplankton. So they have 2500 calories of energy, for example. Then we have the zooplanktons. Zooplanktons are the small organisms which are present. For example, prawns, larvae, such organisms. So these organisms, they will only consume 500 amount of energy. Then you will see in the next level the energy is decreasing, and at the top level only 0.5 energy is being transferred. So this is called as the transfer of energy and the energy pyramid. So the energy flow in an ecosystem is in one way, but the nutrients flow in an ecosystem is always cyclic. All the organisms, they need nutrients for their growth. The nutrients like carbon, oxygen, nitrogen, iron, calcium, etc. are circulated and recycled from the biosphere to the living organism, and after their death back to the biosphere. Nutrients are taken up by plants and then passed on to the consumers, and so on. After their death, all types of consumers are decomposed by decomposers like bacteria, fungi, and the nutrients are again released into the biosphere, which are again used up by the living organism. So we can say that the flow of nutrients is always cyclic in an ecosystem. It is always revolving.